Once you've organized all the components of your Illustrator pattern in or around your blue bounding box, and it looks exactly the way that you want it to, you're going to want to go through the steps to save your pattern as a swatch, and then also save your pattern in a user-identified Illustrator file so that you can access it when you open up new Illustrator documents. The first thing I want to make sure or do is I will take my direct selection, or selection tool rather, and then click on any of the objects that I pulled over from a separate document that may have a lot of visual information combined together. So different strokes, different fills, things made in live paint, things made not right within the Illustrator pattern making mode. So I'll click each one of these objects, and then I'll go up to Object, and then I will go down to Expand. Then I'll click Expand, and I'll say OK. I've done this already previous to this video, so I'm going to say Cancel, but you'll want to go around to each object, select that object, and then expand that object. OK. Illustrator's being a little bit slow here, so hopefully it doesn't shut down on me like it has the last 35 times. Come on. Once I've expanded all of my objects, I'm going to find my Pattern Options box. If you've lost it, you can go through Window and then go Pattern Options. Click at the top right, and I'm going to say Save a Copy. I'm going to save it Birds and Stars Final. I'll say OK. And then it says a new pattern has been added to my swatch panel. I see my Birds and Stars Final is right here. I'm going to keep that highlighted, so click so that there's the bold box around it. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom left, the Swatch Libraries menu. I'm going to click, I'm going to go all the way up to Save Swatches, and I'm going to save this as Birds and Stars Final. And I'm going to say Save. Don't try and save it in your student folder or anywhere else, just the default of where it pops up. It says Swatches. I'm going to say Save. And then that's all I'm going to do for this right here. To avoid Illustrator crashing, I'm going to say File, Save As, here, and I'm just going to save it wherever I normally save things. Yours would be your student folder, Birds and Stars Pattern. I'm just going to save it in case I need to go back to it. And I'm going to close that out and create a new document. So I say File, New. That size is just fine. And in order for us to find our swatch again, you'll notice that your swatch is here. If you can't see it, go to Window, go down to Swatches, and make sure it's checked. But if I look here, my bird swatch is nowhere to be found. No need to panic. If you saved correctly, go down to your library, click that, go to User Defined, and then whatever you saved your pattern as should pop up. I'm going to click Birds and Stars Final, and then I see that there's a conglomeration of them saved here because of computer glitch issues. But if I hover over, I see that that one's the one that I actually want. I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to drag it over to my fill. I don't really want a stroke. It's up to you if you want a stroke, but what we're going to do to make this pattern come to life again, so to speak, is place it with inside a shape. I'm going to come up to my Shape Creation tool. I'm going to choose, I'll choose an ellipse. You can choose whatever you want to, but when I let go, my created pattern should be within inside the shape that I just made. Now you could stop here, not for the purposes of this project, but if you were creating a pattern and you wanted a white background, you could stop here. But especially since I don't have a stroke around the edge, and there is a lot of white space, and I want to create a certain color scheme, I want the option to include a background pattern. And Illustrator doesn't really make it that easy for us to do that. So I'm going to show you a way to do it not within the pattern maker that we just used, but within a shape creation. So with my shape highlighted here, I'm going to find the window option in the top toolbar and then go down to appearance. I'll click appearance, and then this allows us to add multiple strokes and multiple fills with varying opacity levels into one shape. This is useful not only for creating patterns, but for creating complex shapes in any form in Illustrator. I'll click here to say add new fill, and I'm going to choose a color. I want yellow, so I'll double click here and then choose custom form of yellow and say OK. I can click and drag my fill so that it's below my second fill here. Come on. So that it's below my second fill. And as you can see, one of my red birds got kind of funky. And the reason for that is when I was creating my pattern, I chose this to be, I think, either a screen or an overlay, which is why it's interacting differently with the background pattern. So if you were to not like that, you could go back and reopen up the pattern creation file that you saved and then change his, or this object's rather, blending mode back to normal. I did not notice it when it happened because there was no other color overlapping for it to interact with. Or there was, but it was so little that we didn't notice. So that is something that you can plan for. It is something that you could keep, or it's something that you could go back and re-alter. But know that this funkiness right here is because of the work that we did within the pattern creation mode using the blending option tools. So anyway, I clicked and dragged my fill so that it, or my color fill, so that it is below my pattern fill. And if I zoom out here, I am able to have a background, and I'm able to keep my pattern visible with a colored background. Could also choose a gradient for a background. So if I were to click this, click on my gradient tool, double click here, click on my gradient. I could change this to a color. Choosing CMYK instead. Let's say that's what I wanted. Then I can get a gradient as well. So, oops, Control Z. There you have it. There are some options for filling your pattern and finding your pattern, and then using your pattern in a multitude of other Illustrator documents and artwork that you create.